First of all, welcome everyone to this roundtable webinar about demand planning, where we will talk about some key learnings, best practices, challenges, unsolved problems as well, and address any topics that you as an attendee might find relevant. Of course, if it's also relevant to the actual topic and discussion. So the agenda of today is very simple. Each person will share some of their learnings and best practices. We'll go through each of those. Then we will walk through the different challenges that each person faces within their industry, within their region, because there might be some variety in that as well. And then after that, we can tackle any questions that you might have. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to drop them in the Q&A or in the chat. If they are really relevant, then I will just also already ask those to a certain person. My role will just be to moderate this roundtable. So myself, very briefly, I'm the co-founder of Horizon Solutions. So I've seen quite a lot of demand planning implementations from a software perspective, but that always, of course, is linked to actual people and processes as well. And yes, I will be asking some questions, challenging maybe on some topics as well. But before we dive in, we'll go for some brief introductions of the panelists. So we have, for the moment, we have Mike and Arun here with us, and I'm sorry, Arun and Jessica here with us. Mike will join in just a second. And these people are from different regions and work within different industries, have a slightly different role as well. So definitely some good perspectives here to share. So maybe we'll, Jessica, very briefly, if you could start by introducing yourself, where you work, what you do.
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica. So I'm based in Belgium in Europe, and I have been working in S&OP for 8 years now. And currently I'm working at Inve Aquaculture, which is a biotech company in the aquaculture industry. So this is basically a business of developing and manufacturing nutrition and health products for the farming of fish and shrimp. So it's a rather niche and smaller industry, but we are present across markets worldwide. So demand planning in our organization, it involves a forecasting process with input from our sales team and review with the demand planners and myself as an OP manager in order to generate our replenishment processes from our factories to our locations and warehouses worldwide. Yeah.
Thanks, Jessica. I think a very unique industry. So that's definitely very interesting. Looking forward to your insights. Maybe Arun, if you also briefly want to introduce yourself, would be good.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Hey, hi, everyone. I'm Arun from India. I currently lead demand planning for Mankind Pharma, which is the fourth largest pharma company in India with an annual revenue of over 1.2 billion US dollars. And I have been using multiple planning tools, including SAP APO, SAP TMS, O9 Solutions, iCast, Anaplan, just to name a few of them. And then I have also led large-scale planning transformations across multiple MNCs, including AB InBev, the makers of Budweiser beer, and Mondelez International, the makers of Cadbury, Dairy Milk, Milka, and Oreo. And I am currently leading the demand planning team of 8 demand planners based out of India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arun. So while we wait for Mike, when he joins, I will let him introduce himself, and he can also then share his key learnings. But we can already move on with the key learnings from Jessica and Arun, I would say. So
Yes.
Jessica, if you want to share a bit what you have seen in demand planning, what works well from your perspective.
Yeah, so from the perspective and maybe from the S&OP side, right? So in building a more mature S&OP process, yeah, it's a journey. So we have worked towards creating a more clear demand plan, and one of the most important feedback loops I find is the product lifecycle management, right? So when we first started out with S&OP, there was no integration of the product department or the product lifecycle, let's say, in the demand planning process. So we've implemented now regular meetings with the product department to get timely information on information like new product introductions, product launches, but also end of life of products, phase outs, to be able to coordinate with our demand planners and sales to get this correct demand review. And so that's like a process, I would say, key learning. When it comes to systems, we are also now looking into leveraging advanced planning tools to generate a baseline forecast, statistical or machine learning baseline forecast, which we then can ask the sales team and demand planners to review and enrich where necessary, of course. So in this way, we can measure the forecast value add. So in this sense, I'm also interested in Arun and Mike's experience in implementing software solutions, to learn from each other.
Okay. Yeah, your best practices are indeed very much related to the broader S&OP process, of course, because that's your role.
Yes.
So it's logical that it indeed links to the other departments, and then the collaboration part. We can dive deeper into that later. So Mike has been able to join. So before we move to Arun's best practices and learnings, apologies, Mike, because it was for the delay and the difficulties with the link. But maybe if you want to briefly introduce yourself, we've gone through that part. And then we can walk through some of the key learnings. You're based out of the US, so again, different time zone. So welcome, Mike. If you can briefly introduce yourself to the audience, that would be nice.
Oh, you're
on
muted.
Mute. Yes.
My name's Mike Mather, and I'm in the States in New Hampshire, about an hour north of Boston, and I've been doing demand planning most of the past 17 years, started over 20 years ago, and I've been in management roles, planning and roles, process platform implementation roles, and most of it CPG orientation. Currently at Megafood, $100 million premium VMS, vitamin mineral supplements, manufacturer, distributor, retailer. I've been there over 5 years, and we have a $1 billion parent out in California and a $12 billion grandparent in Japan, a pharmaceutical company. And then I'm, as I call it, chief cook and bottle washer. That's actually my favorite role. I'm actually the manager of the process, full ownership of it, and I'm also the planner of it, and doing about 20 accounts, 250 SKUs, deal with about 8 account managers. So, Ben, you said we already hit key learnings and best practices?
Yes, if you indeed will meet, you
Okay.
can immediately move on to the actual key learnings that you've seen from your 17 plus years.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it might sound simplistic, but you can't lose sight of it. You know, people say, well, what's best, machine, i.e. stat forecast, AI, or collaborative forecast? And obviously there's no right answer, but I think in general, my observation has been, absence of substantial changes in a sales or market direction, stat or AI forecasts have been more accurate the greater that the demand is not shaped by the organization, how much influence they can have actually to shape that demand going out. But I think where a company has control of the levers, price or promotion, distribution, where they can obviously shape that demand, and I think collaborative forecasts tend to work better. So I think we're probably more actually towards the unshaped end of the continuum. And then I think the other big thing is, using POS-based forecasting, sort of those build burn models, versus taking an order approach. Obviously POS forecasting should be it is the most sensible, and in theory it should work the best. It's like, okay, what's getting sold through, and look what the customer has on hand, what they have open orders, what their week on hand goals are, and you can build that burn model, build the burn model to come up with an order forecast. So you're kind of backing into it. But I think I found, especially since I was a former buyer on the other side of the fence, there's so many reasons why somebody wouldn't necessarily buy the POS. They have to open to buy dollars to deal with, year-end financial constraints, their own personal buying habits. I remember being a buyer, there were certain months that I preferred to deal and place POs, hedging to make sure you get enough inventory. You might question your own internal forecast, MOQs. So I think that's the important thing is a stat model. I call it buyer behavior. I see that with some of our 20 accounts that there's buyer has a definite behavior, and that's where the stat model can pick up that sort of behavior better than doing a POS based model.
Okay. Yeah, I think you need the POS. Of course, not every company or not every industry will have access to that, depending on how close to the actual customer one might be. We can dive into that part of demand sensing later, and what kind of extra information beyond just historical data can you use to generate a forecast. The first point that you made is also a very relevant one indeed, like setting the baseline versus then collaborating also depends on the industry. To what extent might salespeople or marketing people have some input to actually shape demand with promotions or price changes? So that's indeed also an industry specific one. Okay, thank you, Mike. Maybe Arun, going over to your key learnings, best practices that you've seen over the years.
Yeah. So I have over almost 9+ years of experience in demand and supply planning right now. Based on my experience, what I see is demand planning is not just about crunching the numbers, but it's an art, right? So I'm really excited by the end of the month when I see that, okay, what was my M-2 forecast accuracy? It's like you write an exam and then you see the results by the end of the month, right? So that's not many jobs will have such an excitement towards the month end, but this planning role definitely has it. And I would say also the first thing is to bring the people whenever you want to bring a change or start this planning process or any transformation. First, bring people and process in first place, and then bring the tool, because that has worked really well for us. What happens is you start bringing people, train them to work in certain way, the certain review mechanisms, some certain weekly meetings, certain monthly meetings, S&OPs, etc. Once they are tuned to this, they are also collaborating with the marketing and sales in the demand shaping process. And then the entire process of these weekly and monthly review, it gets matured over a period of time, right? You just bring the tool in place and then start with this, then everything collapses. Like there are a lot of changes which is coming in one time that is difficult to handle for a lot of colleagues. So hence bring this people and processes in the first place, and once it is stabilized for at least like 6 months to 1 year time, then we can bring in any statistical tool or any other tool to for planning with respect to demand or supply planning, etc., right? So you directly bring in the tool, a lot of change management and resistance will pitch in, and then people will feel that yes, it's not going the right direction, so let's scrap the tool, and a lot of implementation fails because of this, right? And the second thing is involving the end users since the beginning. So not just there is a consultant who has been hired and they have a one size fits all solution. They just gets implemented in your organization. No, that doesn't work in most of the times. There are fine nitty-gritties which you have to customize for your specific business. Hence, you have to involve people from the end to end, involve even the analyst from the beginning, so that they have a say in the solution which is getting built for them, right? And the third thing, what I would say is like data is really, really important. Poor input data means poor plan output. So you have to regularly use your outlay cleansing and change those parameters. Planners has to review those so that your statistical forecast, what you get for those stable SKUs are really good. And the last one I would add is specifically on segmentation. So there is no, even in statistical modeling, there is no one model fits all solution. Hence, you have to customize very well as per the historical data, what is the variability of those queues, and then how much volume or value contribution it has. And then customize those specific statistical models to to fine tune for those specific demand patterns, right? So these best practices have worked very well for us in the past. So hence I'm sharing it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I think indeed the people and process first before tool. That's indeed a common but very good one, together with having right data foundation, of course. And then yeah, the segmentation plus involving people from the start. I think that's an important one. Sometimes missed. Higher up, they want to set up a new process or a new system, and they don't involve the actual users. And then indeed it becomes more difficult later on. That's correct. I see a couple of questions coming in the Q&A. These are regarding the S&OP process, I see. So we will be tackling these in just a bit. Some of the next topics actually, I think, will relate to that. Because now we will move on more a bit to the challenges. What are still some things that are unsolved within each of your roles, companies, what you have seen? So Jessica, you've been talking a bit about collaborative forecasting also, and at least collaboration with other departments. Are you seeing any things there that are still difficult, or how can other companies deal with that?
So one of the challenges still in demand planning is the collaborative forecasting, right? So I think Mike also touched on that. And we currently, or in the past, we've been encouraging our distributors to share their inventory data with us.
Okay.
So we could help them improve their forecasting, right? Because that's what it's all about. But yeah, they have been sometimes reluctant to share this kind of information. So yeah, we've been doing this effort for a few years now, and I would say it's now starting to pay off. Yeah, we're starting to get some more inventory data from our distributors. Yeah, so I would say that's one of the challenges still.
Okay, and in that sense, is that also something where they have certain incentives to share it, or just try to get transparency and sales? That's actually not sales. It's you actually trying to get those numbers, but.
You mean the sales team, right?
Yes, the sales team will get them and deliver them to you, or how does it?
Yes, that's now how it works. So they do try to give and that's why it's starting to pay off, right? Give also our distributors incentives to share their inventory data, to have a forecast accuracy objective. Okay. And yeah, so this is something that we are working on. And I don't know, Mike, if you already want to touch on the also shared objective of the sales team as forecast accuracy. So not only from distributors, but we also share an objective with the sales team, having the forecast accuracy as a target coupled to, their bonus as well. And I would say having the right commercial leadership in place is also crucial. Yeah, to have this kind of collaboration possible. Yeah, create this environment where that's possible. So I don't know if that's a question, an answer to your question.
Yes, indeed, for sure. It's because that collaborative part requires indeed incentives, whether it's from a distributor or from a salesperson internally to try and get that information. So I think it's very interesting that you indeed have that kind of incentive somehow set up. Probably it's a limited part as to the variable compensation of salespeople.
Yeah,
but
it's not
definitely not every
it's
company
just
has that.
yeah, it's
Yes,
a small part. Yeah, but
yes,
it's
you
a
want
start.
them to
It's a
still
start.
yeah, indeed. But yeah, curious also to maybe about that topic, Mike and Arun, if you've seen this in practice, these incentives on the collaborative part for salespeople or even other departments, if you've seen it.
Yeah, I think we don't have that sales incentive, but I wholeheartedly agree that the companies I worked at that did the best at operational forecast accuracy, it was I think it was 10%, give or take. Part of their bonus was 10% based on the operational forecast accuracy goals. So
okay. That's interesting. And what about you, Arun? Have you also seen?
Yeah. So even in the CPG world, that's a common practice that there's a bottom-up forecasting process, and then whatever forecast value add is there by the sales team, so that is part of their objective as well. But though that doesn't carry significant weightage, but at least like to the tune of like 5 to 10% weightage is given to the planning accuracy. And also the other way around, also we also get some of the secondary or the sellout sales data from our key accounts. We also incentivize those accounts by giving additional margin to share those data. So that is really helpful for us in realizing what is the actual true demand which is there in the market.
Okay, so it's something that indeed you have seen also in CPG industry. Okay, so I think one of the earlier topics that you also touched upon, Jessica, was not just collaboration with sales, but also actually with product department. So about products being phased in, phased out. So have you seen any challenges there? I think it's also something that Mike also has sometimes seen, let's say, less good communication than ideal. So how can that work?
Yeah. Or Mike, do you want
to
start first?
I'll let Jessica go. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I would say, yeah. Sometimes people do want to go faster than than we can, and so I would say one of the challenges still that is that whenever a product, in the product pipeline, we get push from above to launch things more quickly, right, when it's not ready. So then this can, how do you say, you get a push from above to add this in your demand plan, right, to have it quicker, or to quicker ready than possible. So there, we do have to kind of like communicate and push back, saying, okay, this is too optimistic. We're not ready to launch this, and we have to respect the process, of implementing new product launches or new product introductions. So I would say that's one of the challenges. I don't know if Mike wants to add any.
Yeah, I think it's overlaps are the same. I think when you have company-wide product launches, those usually tend to be more in sync. I think the issue I've struggled with every place is when you have within an account that they have like an existing product that you have, but they're placing it late. They have a late placement, even a couple of years after the fact, or that they're discontinuing. They're reducing the footprint of your product. That sort of those intra account placements, there's not the same rigidity of communication that you would see at a company-wide product launch or a company-wide discontinuation of an item.
And sometimes on the other hand, it's also like when a product launch is being done, it's also underestimating, the launch volumes, because people want to be conservative. So that's also, I would say that's also one of the challenges we face.
Yeah, and in your regard, or how you do it, is to sit together with those people. I wonder also, Arun, within CPG, with many different markets, many different products, how have you seen that take place? Is this somehow in a more automated way? Is it also through close discussions?
So for specifically for new products, whenever we take both judgmental call as well as some background calculations, like how much of my product, what route to market I am following, and then in each and every route to market, how much of the product can be placed in the first go, etc. So we do some back of the hand calculation, and then we use what is the cannibalization factors of my existing portfolio, or like if I'm gaining market share, etc. So those data points are considered while determining the new products forecast. But definitely collaborating with one of the top customers, and then understanding the market needs. So those gives us an edge over in most of the product launches. So we cannot be 100% data driven there, because the new product forecasting in itself, in any industry, the success rate is only 15 to 20% at max, right? So keeping that into consideration, we also take a conservative number because we should not end up in too much of over forecasting leading to write-offs at the end of the year. So to avoid that as well, we take a conservative number, but still it goes hayway. But that's the reason we see new products at least for 1 year of launch. We have to nurture those SKUs with to avoid overstocking or understocking, constantly reviewing the patterns, how is the demand picking up or slowing down, etc. Without that, you can never manage a portfolio better. So constant nurturing, at least for the first full year, is totally required. If that is done well, then we can end up in minimal write-offs and also contribute to the portfolio significantly.
Yeah. Okay. Clear. Thank you. I think this is about, of course, the collaboration part, whether it's with sales, whether it's with product. Initially, Mike, you already touched a bit on that baseline also. What are some of the challenges that you have seen there? Generating a baseline or getting input? Are people accepting it? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think that's another thing that I've seen throughout my career is, in this case where we do a good job actually with our statistical AI forecasting because we have less demand shaping ability than other CPG. At the end of the day, when you sit down with a account manager and you can even show your accuracy, I do extensive accuracy measurements, MAPE based, and you can say, the statistical model is consistently beating an account plan model or a naive model or even a forecast from the account itself. And at the end of the day, people think, well, it's from a black box. It's like, I don't know how it came up with it. It's a black box. So I'm just going to stick with my forecast. So that's often, even showing the accuracy, that's often a challenge.
Okay. So being able to communicate clearly what's behind it in order for people to accept it. Okay. I think because Arun, you've also done these implementations, so of different tools where some might show transparency, some a bit less maybe. Is that something that you've also experienced if you interact with people to get that background?
Yes, yes. So we also use collaborative focus ways of working. We generally first it starts with understanding the market, next marketing plan, next 3 months marketing plan, and then generating the statistical forecast and adding the building block, and that is sent to the sales colleagues and marketing colleagues for enrichment. So through this process, we also measure our forecasting value add at different levels so that we are constantly seeing which who is doing better, and we also review it on a monthly basis. And once we get a consistent statistical accuracy, we ask people not to go touchless, right? So on those intersections where there are negative value add, they go touchless. And then gradually where they are adding value, we do an RCA and find out why the statistical model is not able to perform better for these SKUs. And that's a continuous improvement journey which we do within ourselves to just maintain or improve the forecast accuracy.
Okay, so in order to get that transparency or for people to accept it, you start to roll it out, but still gather a lot of their feedback, then do an analysis to show them clearly where does it stand out, yes or no, and then have them focus. Okay, I think it was also actually a question of Mohit Sharma here about, it was actually to Arun and Jessica about that part, if you're moving towards touchless forecasting in your respective industries. But yeah, you've covered that here with yes, partially for those items where you can generate a better forecast, right? There you tend to focus less on the actual inputs over time, of course, but you don't see that as the end goal. You see where is value added and where can people then focus their attention on, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Clear. And then I think maybe some of the challenges that you've seen, Arun, would probably relate more to the implementation part, I would assume. Can you share some things there?
Yeah. So digital and tool adoption is one of the biggest challenge what I have seen. So there might be some of your marketing colleagues based out of office. They are like fully equipped with Excel ways of working, etc. So they might be tech savvy, but and they can adapt those tools very easily, right? But if you go with the same type of approach for your sales colleagues and then start training them over a video call or like over a Teams calls, etc. So that becomes really difficult for them to understand and then do the hand holding. So to support this, what we generally do is we at least have like 2 to 3 months of hand holding with them and then in-person meetings, which helps us to enable adaptation to a greater degree. And then the other challenge which still remains is also on the demand shaping parts, which even Mike has touched upon. It's at the end of the day, it's a black box. It just comes from the machine. Demand planners also has tough time explaining about the impact of promotions, pricing, and weather impact or any other driver data which is directly or indirectly impacting your demand. So definitely like quantifying that yes, X percentage of growth has come from promotion, Y% growth has come from pricing, and then there is a seasonality impact which is to the tune of 50%, etc. So those things are still a back box for demand planners to explain, but still we try to quantify it to the greater extent. But it's not always 100% quantifiable with, because there is multiple driver data working on simultaneously to get the final output. Maybe you are working mostly with your own data with the internal drivers, but there is a external market forces which is determining your demand as well. So if you're not taking those things into consideration, then definitely the shaping demand shaping accuracy might not be that good. But definitely that is the biggest advantage with machine learning. We even find out we can throw at least like 100 different driver data to machine learning models and then ask them which is the driver which has most correlations, and then understand did that driver really had a correlation or not, if there is a correlation, whether it is positive, negative, etc. And then it can help us to unlock a lot of demand shaping methodologies with AI coming up.
Okay, because that's an interesting part, I think, the external data part and what kind of inputs do you actually use. It's also a question that I see here, like what kind of information to use, what are the top 3 takes for a new demand planner to include. So I think there, it's interesting to touch on that respect, because
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
say,
yeah.
yeah, you can indeed include a lot of different drivers.
Yes.
There might be correlation, not necessarily causation yet, right? So how do you incorporate that? So maybe good to understand first from you. Then I think Mike has also been in that
Yeah.
situation. So which ones, or how would you say step based? What kind of information typically do you try to focus on?
Sure. See, the first thing is there is like really good wealth of information within your organization. So that I would categorize as internal drivers, which is internal to your organization. That might be like a promotion which you are running. There is a pricing impact. There is a seasonality impact, or there is an increase in field force, reduction in field force, or anything of that data which is internal, which you feel has an impact on it. And the second thing is external data like weather patterns, the GDP of the country, or the rising population or diminishing population, or the specifically the demographics of your target group, etc. So those will also have a significant impact. Now, as an approach, how do we go about is initially feed all this data into the model as a pilot, and then see what parameters really did had an impact at the level of granularity which is supposed to be. For example, now you want to specifically check a specific state and then its impact, then you have to rightly like cleanse the data and then have that data, driver data, available at that granularity, and then feed it into the model and then choose the drivers which has significant correlation, and then you can start ignoring those drivers which doesn't have a correlation, right? So that is the stepped approach you should definitely take before getting into the driver data, because some drivers are relevant for some industries and then it's totally irrelevant for some other industry. So if you give the model and then check for its correlation, that helps to eliminate a lot of drivers which is unnecessarily and which is causing any noise.
Okay, so start with internal information still, of course, and then
Yes.
look at externally. Have you seen this, Mike? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I would agree with pretty much everything. I think you start internally. POS is obviously a big one that we want to get in. I mean, it's about one of the biggest challenges to do. Often before you would pop it into software, you want to see the correlative effect outside the system, so you're not throwing 30 different variables into your software and clogging it up with a bunch of noise. So it's just to get the data, cleanse the data, harmonize the data. It's a very slow process in cases, but POS, customer inventory. I mean, I think some of the pioneers of AI, like E2 Open, they're one of the AI pioneers. They will tell you that customer inventory is the best correlation, and competitive pricing is like maybe number 2, and then POS, to my point earlier, they find it's not as strong as those actually, even though intuitively you'd think it would maybe be the best correlator. And then I think some of the macro stuff like inflation indexes, maybe GDP to an extent with us. There was a great example with during COVID lockdown, a company figured out there was a correlation between their sales and with the brick and mortar crowd, and they found when the COVID lockdown that obviously sales decreased because people weren't getting in their cars and driving to the store. So saw the correlation. They were able to get a forecast from the Department of Transportation saying this is what we predict freeway miles will be the next X months during COVID lockdown, and they got it into their AI software, and they were able to predict based on a prediction of miles driven the next 3 months. Because of COVID lockdowns, they actually had a high degree of accuracy for their brick and mortar sales. So that's the stuff that gets me jazzed about AI.
Yeah. Indeed, very specific example, which not all companies could have, but indeed that's an interesting one to see that impact. So that's a bit. There's a question also for you, Jessica, regarding the S&OP process. So moving away a bit from these external data and different kinds of sources to create your baseline and refine it. From an S&OP perspective, someone's asking about the frequency of it and also the actual planning horizon that you have set within your company, and then also what's a good strategy to involve key stakeholders in that S&OP process. So actually a lot of different questions here, but it's all regarding the S&OP process. So you're on mute, Jessica, so you don't hear you.
Sorry, yeah. So I'll try to address them one by one. So indeed, the frequency of our S&OP process is monthly, indeed, and our planning horizon is currently 12 months. We would want to have it, more than 12 months, but we do have to acknowledge, that we're more in a smaller industry where maybe the supply chain planning maturity is lower than other industries, right? And also the challenging in having a longer planning horizon would be the biological variability that we're facing in our industry. So we are dealing, our customer is basically farmers, right? It can be companies, bigger producers, or smaller farmers producing shrimps and fish. So they're dealing with living organisms and are influenced by complex zootechnical parameters. For example, if there's a disease outbreak in their farm where their animals, die off and they don't need your feed products anymore. But then the end consumer demand, so like the supermarkets where they sell their shrimps to, that demand depends on factors like global shrimp and fish prices. So like someone mentioned, inflation that has had an impact on global demand of seafood in general, right? because they would look for cheaper options of protein, like chicken. Yeah.
It has risen quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
You've seen that in,
Indeed, so that has an impact. Weather, seasonality, certain tariffs imposed, you know. So that also has an impact. So that's why I'm saying, like, the planning horizon, we would like to have it longer. Because indeed some of the very specific ingredients that we use, they have a long lead time, right, to get to our factory. But yeah, right now it's, and also with not having the right tool in place, as I mentioned, we're only looking into having advanced planning tools now. It's just not really possible right now to look further, although we would want that. And other challenges that we in our industry is also our lead times, right? So I've mentioned we have 2 factories replenishing our affiliates worldwide. Our transit lead times have increased since the Red Sea crisis, and also the drought in the Panama Canal, because we're using all those shipment routes worldwide. So we do have to deal with both demand uncertainty relating to all the factors I've mentioned now, but also the lead time uncertainty. So in our business, we do have to build quite some safety stocks or safety time in our processes. And then I think the other question was on collaborating.
Stakeholders, involving stakeholders in
right.
S&OP.
Yeah. So I would say, yes, S&OP is also a soft skill, right? So this collaboration, and it's also kind of an educating role, I would say, in the organization. So educating the sales team, but also other stakeholders, that we have a common goal of, you know, getting the right product in the right place on the right time for our customers. And yeah, there will always be issues or challenges in balancing supply and demand. So we just have to have like this positive mindset to come to solutions together as a team. And I said already, it helps to have the right people, of course, in leadership, to have the executive team on board, you know, fully on board with the S&OP process. And that's also, you know, that was also the reason we could have this incentive in place, like having it part of the objectives, part of the bonus scheme, even though indeed also only for, you know, like Arun said, might be only for 5 to 10% weightage, but still counts, right? It's a start. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
I think indeed it closes a bit the loop there, where Arun initially said involve users from the beginning. Well, you also indeed need the executive buy-in in order to set up an S&OP process or tool. Also, regarding the first aspect of that question, so that horizon and those, that supplier uncertainty, I think, Arun, you also probably experienced that to some extent with regulations in pharma or specific markets that have different labels, things like this. Are you able to plan out further, or is that similar for you?
No, so our statistical planning we at least do for 18 months, right? And our planning horizon is also monthly. But it all depends upon what is the maturity level your organization has. It's best to start with the monthly level, and then gradually, as we mature enough, then we get into weekly planning horizons as well. In very much established organizations, we have been using weekly planning horizons, because at the end of the day, why we are planning is to manage our inventories, right? And manage the uncertainties which is there. As you go from aggregated level of monthly to weekly level, you will actually unlock more potential of reducing your inventories, or keeping an optimal inventory which is required to service the business, right? So that will help to encash more return on investments on your tool or anything, all the process which you have put in. But moving away from month, but we have to definitely start with monthly to start with, and then gradually move towards weekly if that fits your organization's requirements and meets the uncertainty to serve the customers.
Okay. And also for systems to support that, there's another question to you as well, Arun and Mike, also about, okay, what kind of factors lead to a choice for a certain solution? What are some of the key priorities, let's say 3 key priorities that you consider in order to support the process with the tool? Maybe Arun, and then we could.
Yeah. So I have chosen. I have been part of the tool selection in 2 of my organizations. Maybe the key parameter, generally it's the top down which is there. But while it is pitched to the top management, they also see in terms of ease of using the planning tool and then getting it implemented via consultant and then availability of such resources in the market, and then the planning accuracy which the tool is able to give during the pilot period, and the capabilities like a solver or an optimizer which will help us to get more dollars or ROI from the tool, and also the degree of customization, right? So the ultimate objective of using the tool is to get the benchmark practices from the industry, but again it should be customizable to suit the business needs, what is happening on ground for their business, and not too much customization which will lead to like non-standard ways of working, right? So these are all the key parameters I would consider before choosing any tool.
Okay, clear. How about you, Mike? Is it similar, or do you have some other?
Yeah, I think again a lot of what Arun said. I think, like you mentioned ROI. I mean, I think you can show that's first and foremost is just say based on forecast accuracy improvement. That means that we're going to have more units for sale, so that's more revenue. Or conversely, we're going to do better on not over forecasting, so we're holding less inventory. So you can actually calculate that out. And there's formulas that like Institute of Business Forecasting will have. Let's say it's like for every X% in accuracy improvement, your EBITDA, your net profit, you should see a gain of X%. So that is I found the easiest way to get the CFO, VP of Ops buy-in is just show, the ROI on this is going to be easily 200 to 300% in cases. So then, some of the choices, I just think, I think a big thing with me is more the soft side. I mean, I think a lot of the platforms are very similar, especially beginning to AI and, their ability to do collaborative forecasting, to import in external forecasts, bring in external data. It's the soft side. Do these guys, as I call it, do they have supply chain grease on their hands? I mean, do you have people within the software company that have actually been in planning roles? I think that's a big plus. And then I think the other thing is just, will they go to bat for you if you do? I agree, customization try to avoid, but there always seems to be some stuff that is unique to your company. And does that software provider have a track record of going to bat for you, that they're able to help with a unique business need?
Okay, so indeed, think about that one, and Mike, the customization is still a crucial part. Not to the extent where it will then hinder you in a year when a provider does an update of their software, right? So it needs to have the key functionality and then be able to customize it as well. So that's very clear. I think there's another question, Jessica, about some specifics as to how product development or how that information from the product department is shared and how you use that exactly within the S&OP process. If you can share some specifics on that, how they give that information to you in a meeting and how you then use that.
Yeah, sure. So basically we do have a monthly meeting. Sometimes when there's a launch, we do it bi-weekly. And of course, as mentioned, we are a smaller organization. So the number of SKUs, it's still doable with having meetings regularly. And then we make different categories, right? New product launches, phase outs, and then this information goes to the meeting for the demand review with the planners and the sales teams. To in each area, because we do have sometimes a launch in a geography, not all the geographies, for example, at the same time. So this is also something that we then put a timeline on, right? And you can actually use kind of some tools for project timelines. How do you, plan all these different steps? So that's the information we get into the demand review process in S&OP. And it goes, of course, then next step is in supply review, and see where there might be constraints in in this whole balancing supply and demand, also for the new products. As I said, so for example, sometimes launch volumes can be underestimated because sometimes salespeople would how would I say not commit maybe to very big launch volumes, but that this is something then we have to align on in the S&OP process. Does that answer the question?
Yes, for sure. I think from what I understand, it's still quite manual though, right? Where you have to have all these discussions, but it's also needed in some cases because new product introductions are something that is specific, right? And you cannot predict, so you have to be close on it. So
yeah, because you don't, indeed, like Arun said, you don't really have the historic demand data. So it does needs to be like a, how do you say, managed by exception thing. And it's also part of the interest is in having this advanced planning tool where Arun and Mike have more experience in be able to deal with maybe better than manual, collecting all this information. But that's where we are at right now.
Okay, very clear. I think there's one more question about where machine learning techniques have added the most value in the demand planning processes. The question relates to, okay, is it good to generate a baseline forecast? Is it good to manage outliers, to actually showcase you, okay, where are the outliers, to measure price elasticity, or to, in the case of new products, match it to a similar existing item? There are a couple of these different things that the question already incorporates, but maybe Mike and then Arun, you have any key insight as to where did it provide the most value add in your experience?
All of the above. I think, some of the AI, I think I'm on my second platform, AI. I think generating a baseline and then a lift aspect is something that a good AI package would do. I think for called new product introduction forecasting by analogy, where it can go through and it can see similar items that might have similar attributes. I mean, I think the best platforms, we're not there yet, can look at specific attributes, whether it was like color or taste, if it was a food, and it can scan your history and kind of pull these attributes together and say, based on this, maybe your new product will forecast this way, or the demand will play out that way.
Okay. So all of the above. Have you Arun seen some sort of hierarchy in where it serves the most purpose?
Yeah, see, from using machine learning, right? So the first thing is we should not directly jump onto machine learning. If you're currently doing on a moving average basis in an Excel sheet, you moving directly onto AI or machine learning doesn't help at all. First, move to a statistically driven models like univariate models, and then once you establish some kind of ground there, yes, this is giving a good results, etc. Then as a stepped approach, as an advancement, you can move to machine learning. Specifically where machine learning adds value is where you want to find out what are all the drivers, what impact that particular driver has, etc. Right? And if you don't even have any driver data, or like you don't even know what driver has what magnitude of impact, etc., directly jumping into AI doesn't help at all. You have to have strong, it's like a garbage in, garbage out, right? So you give a wrong data, you will definitely get a wrong planning output. So you should fine tune the models, and then give the right input data in the right format and the right granularity which is required. And once that is there, once the noises are eliminated, then you can definitely leverage machine learning to unlock potentials of building blocks. And then what's the impact of your pricing, what is the impact of your competitors market share gain on your demand, etc. So you can play with couple of things with multiple drivers data when you have the right data and information in place.
Okay. So
And
for
again,
you
the
would say
trickiest, just last one, the trickiest part of machine learning is you cannot go further long into the system, right? For in the horizon, because you have a predictive driver variable for the past where you correlated. For example, if one of the driver was weather, then you will be you have to give the weather forecast for the future to derive the future demand as well, right? So, and that in itself is a forecast. So weather itself is forecasted, and using that uncertain data, you are again using to forecast your demand. So the longer you go, the higher the uncertainty.
yes.
And then you should have the past as well as future driver data to actually be successful in using machine learning.
Okay. I think could go on about this topic for a few more hours, perhaps even, but we're nearing the end of it. So maybe any of you, Jessica, Arun, Mike, do you still want to share some last thoughts, some last challenges?
I think
if you have any, don't have to.
I do feel like AI is the future, and that's what excites me. I feel like over my career, I've become more of a systems person, that maybe a little more introverted, where at the beginning of demand planning, there was all the collaboration and the extroversion involved with that. The conversations was kind of drive me, and it still drives me to a large extent, but I think as I get towards the end of the career, towards that horizon, I'm finding the systems part is funner.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, totally agree with Mike on the AI piece. AI is coming in a big way. It's going to replace a lot of the jobs which we are doing. But only way to survive this wave is to embrace AI and leverage AI to be better at our jobs. And the last one is about data. Data is the key in any demand planning or transformation journey. So you get 50. If you get the right data, you're almost 50% there, right? The rest part is your adoption and the accuracy and everything. But keep the data in full. And whenever you do the system integration test or UATs for any new tool, always do it with full load data. Don't do it with any partial load data. That's like a perfect recipe to failure. The consultants might show you a good picture by just showing a pilot of data, but once you get into the full load data, it might not really get the value. So to unlock fullest value of the tool, you should always go with full load data. That's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Any final thoughts from your end, Jessica?
No, not immediately. No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, we're at the end here. I think we covered most of the questions. A couple are still open, I see, targeted to some people. So I would actually forward these to the right person so that these can be followed up on. For instance, some good books, blogs, other people to follow. Yeah, there are some specifics. I will forward them, and we'll try to follow up with the attendees on that. So thank you everybody for the questions and discussion, and very much thank you to Jessica, Mike, and Aaron for sharing all of your insights, challenges. I think it was very helpful for people. We will also send a recording, so if you want to still watch any other parts, you can do that. If you want still to ask any questions, I think Jessica, Mike, and Aaron will be happy to answer those through LinkedIn, or at least I hope so.
Yes, sure.
So,
Definitely.
Okay, perfect. So with that, I wish you all a good day or good evening, depending on where you are. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
good day.
you.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
day.